Hey guys, Stealth here. Let's have a look at the BMD-1. This, for me, is my absolute favorite vehicle at Tier 4. Fast, packs a good punch, fires ATGMs, has very good spotting capabilities as well as good stealth. It is also pretty small. I believe this is one of the smallest vehicles you can find at Tier 4. And for example, comparing it to the BMP-1P, which has a somewhat similar role, you can see that this thing is significantly larger and thus easier to hit. The BMD-1 does not have this issue. And the way that I have kitted it out makes for a very good passive spotter and a late game mop-up crew basically. You can find this vehicle in Shishkin's line of fire support vehicles. You have to go through the AMX-10P to go there, and there is a significant difference between the AMX-10P and the BMD-1. AMX-10P has an autocannon, and with that it can do a very high amount of damage in a short period of time if it pens. And that is usually where shit goes wrong, because the AMX-10P doesn't have a gun that's that good. BMD-1 carries a standard weapon, or at least a more usual 73mm smoothbore cannon. And this thing has a lot more firepower than the autocannon that you have been using so far on the AMX-10P. You can see that it has a couple of different shells that you can upload it, or that you can equip it with. The ones that I'm using are the Heat FS shell, which is a very powerful round that does quite a bit of damage. The penetration is a bit on the low end with 196, but at Tier 4, if you go for the lower weak spots, that's usually still more than enough to do a lot of damage to targets. You can also get access to the AT3B Sager ATGM. This thing does significantly more penetration and more damage. But have a look at the speed of the projectiles. This one has a speed of 200 meters per second versus the 750 meter per second speed of the heat round. This is significant if you're firing it over longer ranges. Say your target is at 600 meter range. This shell will get there in less than a second. This ATGM will take a full 3 seconds to get there. And 3 seconds may not sound like much, but it is actually quite significant if you are dealing with targets that can use the terrain to hide behind it and dodge your ATGM. So yes, I do use the ATGM, but usually only at the start of the battle when units are still getting into position and when you can catch them off guard with the ATGM. Now as far as mobility goes, you start out with a standard 5D20 engine, and you can upgrade this quite significantly with the Mark II. This one accelerates in 2.1 seconds to 32 kph, which is extremely fast. This one takes a little bit longer and only 0.15 seconds. But you will want to get this upgrade because it leads you to a mobility retrofit slot. And the more mobile your BMD is, the better it is at flanking positions. Other than that, you don't have anything to research really in the tech slot. You can get enhanced shell materials, and this is something that will benefit the BMD-1 itself. Moving accuracy improves by 15%, and that's going to be useful if you use this thing as a very mobile sniper or a mobile flanker, or if you're using a lot of vehicles which have autocannons, because moving accuracy with autocannons is very important. You want the maximum number of shells to land on the target, and this retrofit can help you with that. Other than that, you have 2 credit packages of 30,370 credits each. Now, the specs of the vehicle itself are really good. It may not have any armor. You have 15 frontal armor, you have 10 on the side, 10 on the rear. And your turret, insofar as it is a target because it's pretty tiny for a vehicle like this, is only 23 on all sides. So don't expect this thing to deflect or bounce any kind of rounds. If you get hit, it'll hurt. That's the way that this thing works. But getting hurt in this thing is difficult, because your mobility will usually, if you use it well, save you. It has really good top speed and a very impressive acceleration. Of course, it's not the same as, for example, the Fox, which accelerates way faster and has a much higher top speed. But for a tracked vehicle, especially if I'm comparing this to the BMP-1P, is quite significant. You can see I can accelerate faster with the BMD, and I have a higher top speed compared to a vehicle which is similar. Now that I'm pulling them up side by side, let's have a look at the other specs. You can see that the spotting range of these vehicles is similar, 488.75, and that's because I have both of them fully kitted out with spotting gear. And they have a significant or a slight difference in camo factor. This one has a 0.33 camo factor and this one has 0.30. They have the same type of advantages, which means that if you're moving at slow speed, which is pretty much cruise control in the first gear forward, you're going to maintain that camouflage factor. So you can move across the battlefield with a 0.33 camouflage if you're moving slowly. If you're doing 60, you're gonna lose that camo factor. Of course, with both you can also laze targets, and that will help you do damage. Now, something that's a significant difference between the BMD and the BMP is the turret traverse. You can swing this turret around from side to side in less than 3 seconds. This one takes 3 seconds to rotate it 90 degrees, let alone 180. So if you have a target on your left and you need to suddenly engage a target on your right, it'll take you a bit longer, and that is something that the BMD-1 really excels at. You can really quickly reacquire targets, although the targeting time itself is slightly longer. The accuracy is also really good at only 0.10, and the reload time of 527 means that you can dish out that heat round or an HEGM, although HEGMs have a significantly faster or significantly lower reload, which means you can only fire 3 per minute. You can actually fire 9.9 heat rounds per minute, and that puts it at the DPM of 3687. Now, enough about the chatter. Let's bring this thing into a battle. Oh, before I do that, actually, the retrofits, you can kit this thing out as you desire. You have one tech slot and one mobility slot. For the mobility slot, I put in another unit which will improve my acceleration so I can get going faster, because I still believe that that is the key to staying alive and dodging fire. Other than that, I have augmented optics 1. I am grinding on the BMP-1P to get the augmented optics 2, but for now I just have the augmented optics 1, and that is still very good for a vehicle like this. Okay, let's take this thing into a PvP match. When I'm using the BMD-1 and I have it fully completed, as you can see, I usually go into PvP, because you do get a significant bonus if you are spotting targets, and that's something that is much more rewarded in PvP than in PvE. So that's why I personally prefer going into PvP. You can take this vehicle into PvE if you want to, and I'll show you a gameplay of that later on. But a PvP or a PvE match means that targets can spawn all around you. And with a vehicle that is absolutely unprotected or has very little armor, it is going to be difficult to survive in a situation like that. With PvP you don't have that. You can just catch a position, hold there as a passive spotter or an active spotter, depending on your taste, and from there fight it out or just keep spotting stuff, and only later on in the battle start cleaning stuff up. Now we're on the desert map. This is pipelines, and the matchmaking is solely tier 4, as you can see. Most of the vehicles here are tanks, light tanks, and a couple of spotters in the form of a BMP-1P and a couple of swing fires, and we got all BMDs. So as far as mobility spotting goes, we have an advantage over the enemy team. Now, last time I was using this vehicle on this map, I found a really nice spotting position, which you really don't have to move too far from to do a very good amount of damage. And by damage, you should take that in a bit of a broader perspective. I'm not talking raw DPS or soul damage that you do. I'm also talking about the spotting damage, because this thing has a 488 meter spotting range, which makes it extremely well suited to spot targets. And any spotted target that gets damaged gets rewarded, or at least you get the reward for that. Now the one problem that I have is that I have absolutely no backup here, so I'm not going to be able to spot anything useful here, or at least not insofar as it's going to get shot at. So I'm going to take up position here, and in tandem with that Sheridan there, try to suppress their scouts as they come up. There you go, swing fire. First hit, 354, and I did not get spotted. My camo factor saved me. The swing fire is still moving about. Almost got him there. And this thing only needs really 2 more hits. He's down to 400 hit points already. Can see some more targets popping up here. BMP-1P, 314 in there. I'm firing at maximum range here to make sure I don't have to get too close. And I wouldn't say I'm playing it like a TD, because it's way faster than a TD to get in and out of positions. But you could consider it to have a playstyle similar to that of a TD. All these acronyms all the time. Now, one thing that you do have to have if you're driving the BMD is patience. Sometimes you will just be a passive spotter and you won't really have anything to shoot at. You're just there to guard a flank or to spot stuff so that your friendlies can target it so that you don't get killed. The moment you light up, you fire something, you are much more likely to take damage. Now I fired 3 times, did 993 damage total, and that's already higher than my HP. So by my own rules, I was already useful to the team by doing that. I'm going to try and light up some targets here. I need to be careful not to pop over here too far. If I do that, I'm going to probably lose a bit of hit points. And I would like to get a shot into this swing fire. There you go. But I think I hit the pipeline instead. There's still that weak swing fire there at 40 hit points. And I know that my Sheridan on my team is crying for help, but I don't really have the capacity to take on 2 OL40s backed by a LAV 300. So I'm afraid that he's going to have to dish it out or take it by himself for now. And so far as he doesn't attack and they don't attack, there's no problem here. Another thing that you need to know about the BMD is that it's all about finding opportunities. You need to spot opportunities where you can quickly capitalize on doing damage. Now this one was not a good opportunity because yes, I did hit the LAV once, but at the same time I took twice the return fire, so I got a lot more damage taken than done. And as you can see, I'm struggling to get the gun on target here because the gun depression really isn't that good. It's something that these things just don't have very much. That's an AGM from a swing fire coming in. I'm going to duck behind these rocks here. I have absolutely no intention of taking the second swing fire as well. Already did 1600 damage as well as a bit of spotting. The team is not doing that bad. We only lost 1 tank more than the enemy did. Now the problem here is that my spotting capability is fighting the camo factor of the swing fire. That's basically what's going on right now. And that makes it a bit more difficult for me to actually do damage safely. Now I did spot the T-64 here, but he's too far behind for any of my allies to fire at him. And it seems that by now we need to start doing some damage, because now we're down 4 tanks compared to them. So I'm going to cross over, because this flank isn't that useful anyway, or I'm not that useful on this flank. You can see traversing through the water does take it a bit more time, but it's still doable. Just make sure you don't do that when you're under fire, as it may be the last river that you cross. I'm trying to get a good firing position here, always keeping in mind what my exit strategy is going to be. We're down 6 tanks. Yeah, we lost this. There's a target there. Let's shoot him in the back. 411. That's a really high damage roll for this gun. Yeah, he spotted me. 260 or 286. He's probably going to be looking at me now. Or at least I would be, but he apparently has other plans. And he hasn't spotted me. There you go, target down. Next up, Sheridan. And the Sheridan returned fire and killed me. But I did almost 3,000 damage. That's a significant amount for an armored fighting vehicle at tier 4. And combine that with the spotting capability of this vehicle and you have all the ingredients that you need to make for a very, very powerful spotting vehicle, which can also do a significant amount of damage. Now let's see how this last BMD-1 is doing. And he is seemingly retreating from an OF-40 that's right behind him. This is not an ideal position for the BMD. You can finish off weak targets in the BMD because you can pretty much circle strafe them. But if it's a full health target, then you will take at least 1, maybe 2 rounds. And something from a OF-40 that can do quite a bit of heat damage to you, I wouldn't want to be trading shots with him. But as you may have seen, he launched a missile and did 400 damage to Artorias there in the OF-40. And unfortunately, the M109, the artillery player, killed off this guy. But I still think that with the amount of premium, as well as the Halloween bonus XP that we're getting, which is 50% added, I got a very, very good amount of XP. And let's see what the result screen is going to be like. Alright, here we go. That's a defeat. Got me 2400 XP. I spotted 6 targets. I did 3.2 thousand damage. I got Master Gunner for hitting 8 out of 10 shots. And I got the Iron Star for getting the highest reputation on the losing team, which of course is a little consolation, but look at this, damage done. We got 4 players on my team who just didn't do anything. They didn't do any kind of damage. Whereas on the enemy team, there was only 1 player on the team that didn't do anything. Now, surprisingly, I did more damage on the losing team than the highest scoring player on the enemy team. And not just by 100 or 200, but by 900 damage. Now, for me, this is a pretty average game in the BMD-1. Keep in mind, it is still with a multiplication. So normally you would get, say, around 1200 to 1500 XP for this. If this would have been a win, I would have probably been going towards the 5000 XP marker, something like that. And of course, still, it's an average game, but I really enjoyed playing this vehicle. I played a lot of scouts in earlier games, in World of Tanks, for example. So I know how to scout, I know when to retreat, when to attack, and that is something that you will need to learn in order to do well in the BMD-1. Now, let's take the vehicle into PvE mode and see how it performs there, because you see that it will do well, but not as well as I would probably be doing in PvP. And yes, it's PvE, so I'll probably do more damage comparatively, because bots don't angle, don't fight back, etc. Or at least they don't fight back that well. But I'm much more likely to die in this situation than in PvP. Seems that again we're doing a desert map here. And we got a plane which is being shot down probably. Yep, it's this map. We need to destroy or defend the downed plane and destroy enemy SAM sites. Now this is an ideal terrain for me. I got hills all around. I got cover from bushes, rocks, I got vehicles and urban blocks I can hide behind. So this is for me an ideal hunting ground because I can do so much damage, retreat quickly, and possibly fire off an ATGM. Talking of which, I haven't shown you yet, but if you alternate these weapons, you can do a lot of damage. Whereas the one moment you fire an ATGM, the next moment you fire a heat round. Here's our plane, by the way. It's not doing that well. And we're here to clean that thing up, or at least to capture the data that was stored inside. Now here's our first volunteer. 277. I'm going to switch to an HGM. For an HGM you do need to be still, as with all HGMs. I'm going to fire this at the superior T92, killing it off, and then immediately switching to my heat round and doing damage to the Sheridan. If you do a sort of tandem attack like this, where you fire 2 heat rounds for every HGM that you fire, you have a very, very high damage output. The one thing is that I am too exposed here, so I'm going to slowly retreat. And of course, as I'm retreating and as I'm moving, I cannot actually fire my HGMs. They would just take too long to aim. Still, I think it's worth it, because this thing a moment ago had 500 XP, or HP. So HGM in. Bit of a waste for 178 hit points, but so be it. Now, let's kill off the artillery first, because they tend to be quite annoying. Laze the Super M60 here in the meanwhile, or the M60 Starship. See if I can get a shot on anything here. I don't want to push up too far too fast. If I do, I risk taking fire from the M60. It's not something that I'm interested in. Okay, switching back to the HGM. HGM takes a while to arm actually. Target down. Switching back to the heat round. Fire into the Gvozdika here. And you can see just how quickly this thing accelerates. That is what I really, really enjoy about this vehicle. There's an Abbott behind it, and something else. I'm going to flank these guys. Although it's artillery, it's good practice to keep up your skills and drills. Target down. And we're just going to ram the other one. That is, if he hasn't died already. Now, spotting some stuff here, and I'm going to pop my PvE repair unit, because I do not want to lose this battle. I do not want to get killed off before we get the secondary objectives done. Now you can see that I'm also taking up a sort of flanking position here, because from here I have a better chance of penetrating the tanks which are focused on other targets. And that is something that I don't really see too many BMD drivers do. You need to be clever with this vehicle. You need to find openings, and if there are any openings, you can capitalize on those very, very quickly. If there are not any openings yet, you need to wait. You need to wait for those openings, or create them yourself, of course. Now, let's quickly see. I am leading in damage done by only 100 points. And I have taken quite a bit of damage here, so I need to be a bit more careful. Target destroyed. Secondary objective done. Now I'm going to trigger the mission here, which is to defend the cargo plane, and that usually spawns in more vehicles. It's just the way that PvE is rigged at the moment. I'm going to switch to the HGM, because I have a pretty good position here with a good overview of the surrounding area to fire an HGM. And you can see there's a T-54. HGM in, and come on, get out, heat round in, target destroyed. That's how quickly you can finish these guys off if you use this 1-2 punch that the BMD can do. Target down. I'm going to switch to my HGM next. HGM loading. Aimed. Whoa, 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 whoa. And unfortunately, I had completely missed that target. Now this guy's looking at me, and I do not want to get killed here. But there seem to be too many vehicles hell-bent on killing me. And this is what I mean. You will take quite a bit of fire, and that's not something that this thing does very well. It is not good at taking punches. There's still a Leopard 1 here. I'm just going to let my teammates do a bit of the work here, because I cannot push out too far, and I don't have the gun depression to hit that starship anyway. I might have the gun depression to hit the leopard, but he's looking at me. I cannot laze him either, but there you go. Teammates finished him off. So let's pop a thank you for those. And I'm still leading by damage done. Now there's usually one or two vehicles still left alive, but we're just capping it out now and finishing the mission off. Mission complete, job done, and we can go back to the garage. I'm going to pause it here because the loading screen takes usually a quite long time. Alright, results are up, and I got 4,500 XP for doing 4,500 damage and doing 2,600 spotting damage. That got me the blue star for getting the highest reputation in PvE, and for teamwork, which is completing a PvE mission without friendly losses. Now, I almost sacrificed this for almost dying myself, so I'm glad I didn't, and we all got this reward. Now, I'm not sugarcoating this review. This is something that I record as I'm doing this. I'm not pickpointing or cherry picking the best replays, because there just isn't a replay system yet. So everything you see here is just me playing as I'm recording the review in one go. Sometimes you'll have games which are going to be better, sometimes you're going to have games which you think, Jesus, did I really do that bad? With the BMD-1 though, I have found that I usually do very, very well. Either in spotting damage, actual damage done, and or both. So this is absolutely my vehicle and it suits my playstyle. If you're looking for something that is heavily armored, you are at the wrong vehicle here. This is not a tank. It's a flanker, it's a scout. It carries a punchy gun, which is a 73mm, and if you fire heat rounds into the lower chassis of a vehicle, you'll always do quite a bit of damage, provided it's not the front of the vehicle. So, hope this review showed you a bit of how I play the BMD-1, how much fun you can have with it, what the HGM can do, what the main gun can do, and just how good that spotting capability is. I have a lot of screenshots, and unfortunately I cannot really upload those just yet, but maybe I'll do a compilation of best hits with the BMD-1, because very, very often I get a metric ton of XP and credits in this thing. So if you'd like me to show off more BMD gameplay, leave a comment with yes down below so that I know that you want me to do one. Anyway, hope this was useful to you. If it was, please hit like if you want more, subscribe to the channel, and other than that, I hope to see you next time.